Two people, same city, almost the same paycheck. One of them is quietly forfeiting over $700,000, and she has no idea it's happening. There's no line on her bank statement that says future wealth decline. There's no alert. The money just leaves every single month, and the loss is invisible until you actually run the number. Here's the thing most personal finance content gets wrong. Everyone tells you how to pay off debt. Almost nobody shows you what happens after. What happens to your cash flow, your ability to invest, and the actual shape of your financial life once that last payment clears. That gap, the gap between carrying debt and being free of it, is bigger than almost anyone realizes. And over a decade or two, it doesn't just grow, it accelerates. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to walk you through two real-world financial profiles, the kind reflected in consumer debt and investment data, and show you exactly what that gap looks like at year 10 and year 20. If you're carrying debt right now, the number you're about to see might be the most important one you run all year. So stay with me, because the people who close this gap fastest aren't the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who finally understood what staying in debt was actually costing them. Let me introduce you to the first profile. Call her Diana. She's 34, works in HR, makes about $67,000 a year. By every visible measure, she's doing fine. She contributes a little to her 401k. She doesn't blow money on clothes, she meal preps on Sundays. By most definitions, she's responsible, she budgets, she tracks. But every time she gets a raise, she doesn't feel ahead. She feels slightly less behind. And there's a reason for that. Diana is carrying about $23,400 in credit card debt across 3 cards. She's got $28,000 left on student loans she's been paying since 2015, and a car payment she told herself she'd clear quickly, she hasn't. Diana isn't careless. She just hasn't been able to answer one question cleanly in about 6 years. What would I actually do with my money if none of that existed? Now let me show you what her debt is really costing. Because this is where most people in her situation badly underestimate the damage. On the surface, her monthly payments look like this. Credit cards, about $520 a month across 3 cards. Sounds responsible, right? Until you realize that at an average APR, around 22%, roughly 380 of that 520 is pure interest. She's paying $380 a month just to stay in place. Her student loans run about $310 a month at 6.5%. Her car payment is $387. Total monthly debt obligation, $1,217. That's $1,217 a month that can't go anywhere else. Can't be invested, can't build anything, it just leaves. Now here's the number she's probably never run. If she took that same $1,217 a month and put it into a basic S&P 500 index fund, earning the long-term historical average of around 8% annually, here's what the math produces. In 10 years, about $221,000. In 20 years, about $716,000. She's not investing $1,200 a month, she's servicing debt with it, which means that $716,000 isn't a number she's building toward. It's a number she's forfeiting, quietly, every month, with no line item that announces it. And that's before we even talk about the interest itself. At her current pace, she'll pay roughly $14,800 in credit card interest before those cards are gone. Another $9,200 on the student loans over the remaining term. About $2,100 more on the car. That's around $26,000 in interest, on top of the money she already borrowed. $26,000 that will never appear in any account she owns. Think about what that number actually is. $26,000 is a fully funded Roth IRA for almost 3 years. It's a serious chunk of a house down payment. It's the seed capital for almost any small business you'd want to start. It's not nothing, it's just gone before it ever had a chance to be anything. I want to give this a name because naming it makes it real. Call it the debt tax. Not the interest rate. The interest rate is just a number on a screen. The debt tax is the compounding future value of every dollar that leaves your account as interest instead of as an investment. It's invisible, It's permanent, and almost nobody calculates it. So let me show you the other side. Call him Daniel. He's 43, same city, similar income, about $71,000 a year. 3 years ago, he made his last consumer debt payment. Last credit card, last student loan, last car note, all cleared inside an 18-month stretch. His income didn't change, his job didn't change, but in the 12 months after that final payment, he invested more than he had in the previous 8 years combined. Not because he earned more, because the math finally had room to work. Here's how he did it. At his peak, Daniel had about $41,000 in consumer debt, roughly the same situation as Diana. He used what's called the debt avalanche method, which means he ordered his debts by interest rate, highest to lowest, and attacked them in that sequence while paying minimums on everything else. Credit cards first, because at 24% APR, they were the most expensive. Student loan second, car note last. The avalanche method wins mathematically in almost every scenario. Research published in the Journal of Marketing Research in 2016 confirmed what the arithmetic already shows. Paying highest interest debt first minimizes total interest paid. On his debt load, that approach saved him roughly $4,300 in interest, compared to paying smallest balance first. But here's the part that actually matters. When his first card hit zero, he didn't let lifestyle creep absorb that payment. He stacked it onto the next debt. That's the avalanche in motion. Every cleared payment becomes ammunition for the next target. His monthly attack grew from $400 extra to $680 to $1,100 as each account fell. The timeline accelerated in a way that felt almost unfair, given how slow it felt at the start. And then the last payment cleared. His total freed up monthly cash flow, $1,340. Here's exactly where it went, and the order matters. First, he paused. 3 months. He rebuilt his emergency fund to 6 months of expenses. Not investing yet, just making sure he was never one bad month away from putting something back on a card. Then he deployed. First, his employer's 401k match. He'd only been contributing 2%, enough for half the match. He bumped it to 6% to capture the full match. That's an instant 50% return on those dollars before the market does anything at all. Nothing else in personal finance comes close. Second, a Roth IRA, about $583 a month, maxing the $7,000 annual contribution limit. Every dollar in there grows tax-free, and the IRS never touches the gains. Third, everything left went into a taxable brokerage account, low-cost index funds, set to auto-invest. Something he'd tried to start 3 times before and couldn't sustain because the money kept getting pulled back into debt payments. His total monthly investment after deployment, about $1,100. Not the full $1,340, some went to the emergency fund and a modest lifestyle bump he'd genuinely earned. But $1,100 a month, consistently, at 8% annually, produces about $200,000 in 10 years. And $651,000 in 20. Daniel didn't get a promotion, he didn't inherit money, he didn't pick hot stocks or do anything clever. He just closed the last tab, and compound interest, which had been working against him for years as APR, flipped to working for him. And there's a part of this that doesn't show up on any spreadsheet. A 2019 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences tracked people before and after their debts were eliminated. Not reduced, eliminated. Anxiety symptoms dropped from 78% of participants showing clinical levels down to 53%. A 25 percentage point reduction in diagnosable anxiety from closing debt accounts alone. And here's the bigger finding. Cognitive performance improved. People made measurably better financial decisions after the debt was gone. They became less impulsive, less likely to grab the short-term option at the expense of the long-term outcome. The brain doesn't experience debt as a number, it experiences it as an open threat. And managing an open threat burns cognitive resources constantly, quietly, in the background. Resources that would otherwise go toward higher-order thinking, career planning, risk assessment, long-term decisions. This is why Diana filters every major choice through one silent question she's never quite said out loud. Can I still cover the payments if this goes wrong? Should she take the job with more responsibility but a slightly lower base because the trajectory is better? Payments. Could she go part-time for a year to build the consulting practice she's been sketching out? Payments. The unpaid project that gets her the credentials she actually needs? Payments. The debt isn't just a financial obligation. It's a career constraint she never explicitly agreed to. That's written down nowhere, but that she feels every single time an opportunity shows up. Daniel stopped running that calculation. Not because he got reckless, but because the calculation genuinely changed. With no mandatory consumer payments and a growing investment account, one bad quarter doesn't cascade. One job transition doesn't become a crisis. The floor of what survival costs dropped. And when the floor drops, the ceiling rises. He took a lateral move 18 months after his last payment. Same salary, different company, better equity upside. He wouldn't have done it before. The risk math didn't work before. It worked after. And this isn't only psychological. Researchers at Northwestern found that high debt-to-asset ratios correlate with measurably higher blood pressure and worse self-reported health, even after controlling for income. The debt was a physical burden. When it closed, the body noticed the same way the mind did. So let me make this concrete, because the gap between these two profiles isn't fate. It's a sequence, and sequences can be started. Step 1. Choose your method and understand what it actually costs you. The avalanche, highest interest first, wins mathematically almost every time. On a $50,000 combined debt load at mixed rates, it typically saves $3,000 to $6,000 in interest versus the snowball. But the snowball, smallest balance first, wins psychologically for some people. And that same 2019 research actually supports it, because closing an account matters to the brain more than the size of the relief. If you've tried the avalanche and stalled, the snowball isn't a failure. It's a different tool. The best method is the one you'll actually finish. Step 2, find the extra payment. The math on acceleration is brutal in the best way. On $23,000 in credit card debt at 22%, paying only the minimum clears it in about 9 years and costs around $21,000 in interest. Adding just $200 a month extra cuts that to 3 years and saves about $15,000 in interest. $200 a month is the difference between a $21,000 tax on your own money and a $6,000 one. Find the $200. Step 3, and this is where most people lose the whole thing. Know exactly what you're doing the day the last payment clears. Because the payment disappears, and within 6 months it quietly becomes better takeout and a streaming upgrade. The freed cash flow has to have a destination before the account closes, not after. The sequence, in order. Rebuild the emergency fund first, 6 months of expenses in liquid savings before a single dollar goes anywhere ambitious. Then capture the full 401k match, because that's a guaranteed 50 to 100% return, and nothing else competes. Then max the Roth IRA, $7,000 a year, tax-free growth. Then max the 401k contribution limit. Then a taxable brokerage with low-cost index funds for everything that's left. Run $1,000 a month through that sequence at 8%, and you're looking at about $183,000 in 10 years and $593,000 in 20. You didn't need a windfall. You needed the payments to stop and the redirect to be intentional. So here's where these two profiles land. Same income, same city, not different people in any way that shows up on the surface. But one is building a number she can't see, the compounding future value of every dollar leaving her account as interest. The other is building a number that shows up in an account balance, the kind that changes which decisions are even available to you. The gap between them isn't income, it isn't intelligence, it isn't luck. It's the presence or absence of about $1,200 a month that has somewhere to go other than servicing the past. And here's the thing about that gap. In year 1, they look almost identical from the outside. By year 10, there's $200,000 between them. By year 20, it's over $500,000. The gap doesn't grow in a straight line. It accelerates, because that's exactly what compounding does once you finally give it room. So what do you actually do with this? If you're carrying debt right now, your first move isn't to throw money at it. It's to run the full number, not the interest rate, the compounded future value of every dollar currently leaving your account in interest. Take your total monthly debt payment, drop it into any compound interest calculator at 8% over 20 years, and look at what comes out. That's not a hypothetical, that's what you're forfeiting. Sit with it once. Then sequence it. Pick avalanche if the math matters most to you. Snowball if you need the psychological wins to stay in the game. Find your $200, even if it takes a month of looking. And critically, decide today where the freed up cash flow goes the moment the last account closes. Emergency fund, then match, then Roth, then brokerage. Write it down now while you're motivated, not later when the money feels like a bonus. And if you're already debt-free, the question flips. Are you actually deploying that freed cash flow on purpose, or did it quietly dissolve into lifestyle? Because being debt-free and not investing the difference means you did the hard part and skipped the payoff. Quick note before we wrap. This video analyzes patterns based on publicly available research and data. It's for educational purposes, to help you understand the math and psychology of debt, not personal financial advice for your specific situation. Everyone's circumstances are different. If you need guidance for your own financial decisions, work with a qualified professional who understands your individual goals and constraints. If this reframed how you think about your own debt, do me a favor and drop a comment with one number, the monthly payment you'd most love to free up. Seeing it written down does something. And if you want the next piece of this, subscribe, because next I'm breaking down the exact order to invest that freed up cash flow. The sequence that squeezes the most out of every dollar once the debt is finally gone. You don't want to miss the math on that one.